Oh yeah, sexy biscuits. Nice.
London Blues 1975. A YouTuber's on the rise. Reviewing games late at night and sometimes friends used to bug him. Lord Wars Blues 1975.
Hey YouTube, Boys Post 1975 and welcome to a random vlog. Welcome back to the ticking clock room. If you do not like the sound of ticking clocks, please see prior statement on previous video because I am a fan. This is a video actually that I can't believe I have ever made before now. I've openly talked about the birth of this channel being because of the Sega Megadrive. Obviously, my initial, channel, the early days was me trying to repiece together every Japanese Megadrive game I had as a kid in my childhood collection because I had a Japanese Megadrive. Anyone who watches that channel obviously knows that. And they know the story, which obviously we're going to repeat in this video about, the game I was supposed to get but never got, even though I was promised to get it, and not just when I purchased it, but with a letter that was in the box when I got my Japanese Megadrive. Which is why, I don't even know what I'd call this video yet. Maybe the day my Japanese Megadrive arrived as a kid and why it was a little bit underwhelming. But that's not to do with the console, and that's through no fault of my own. But we'll get into that a little bit more because I've said it before, but I'm not going to do it right at the start of the video because maybe some of you don't know why, how and when I got a Japanese Megadrive. But someone did send me a message on Facebook a couple of weeks ago and say, hey, have you ever actually told the story about the day your Japanese Megadrive arrived? And I have not, and I honestly don't know why. You would think that would be a no-brainer for someone who loves Sega as much as me. The Sega Megadrive is not only the greatest video game console ever released in the history of mankind. If you disagree, you're just wrong. But obviously it's also my personal favourite console of all time, and I've had a few belters, and I had a Super Famicom alongside a couple of years later, my Sega Megadrive. See, console wars weren't really a problem for me. I was living the dream because of how many part-time jobs I had as a kid. I was bringing home more money in a weekend than my older brother was after he left school, and he was doing youth training. To be fair, youth training was a complete piss take of the people that were on it. But anyway, little bit of previous information on why I got a Sega Megadrive. Going on holiday as a kid in Minehead and Westward Ho, the arcades were ruled by Sega. The Sega, I mean, this is fact, everyone knows this. They just put out belter after belter after belter, Space Harrier, Hang On, Outrun, Thunderblade, Shinobi. Everything they did was utterly, utterly fantastic and a cut above all the other arcade machines. They were just pure class, and this blew the head off me and impressed me immensely as an ickle child, and I clearly became a Sega fanboy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But we had a ZX Spectrum, and while there are many, many great, amazing ports of Sega arcade games on the ZX Spectrum, just look up Space Harrier, seriously. Fucking that on a 48K machine. I just wanted to have to experience it better. 16 bits, clearly computers, even though my brother ended up with an ST and Amiga later on, clearly weren't really an option because of the price at this point, and the Sega Master System, which was huge in this country, that was the route I went. I paid for half of it. We found a second-hand one. My mum paid for the other half. And I got it at Christmas, and because it was second-hand, it came with a bunch of games. It came with Hang On card, which is a belt-and version as well. The original Wonder Boy, which is fantastic, because doesn't the Master System share similar architecture to the original Wonder Boy arcade machine, or have I just been believing a lie all these years? And it came with Afterburner, and my gran bought me My Hero, also a card game, for that Christmas. But obviously, Mean Machines, in the middle of CVG, because that's all it was at this point, not his own magazine, shaped me into getting a Sega Master System and being a fanboy. Saved up for that, wasn't that much of a big deal because I was getting half the money for Christmas. I remember there was an episode of Only Fools and Horses, I don't know what it was, but it was the one when the roof leaked and it made, sorry, spoilers, it made it look like the Virgin Mary was crying. And I just remember that because that was when it was screened, or maybe it was a repeat, can't remember how old that one was. I just kept going over and over the flyer with all the games on it and flipping it and stuff like that. Anyway, imagine my surprise when, you know, CVD announced that Sega's going to enter the 16-bit market with their new Mega Drive, which is based on similar architecture to their System 16 board, and it's going to be arcade perfect. Spoilers, it wasn't. A whole bunch of games were really, really close though. And my brain just blew up. My world just imploded. Sega going to make a 16-bit console, and it looked amazing. The original Model 1 just looks, should have bought one down, shouldn't I? Actually, I've got a prop to cover that. It looked fantastic, but also being completely sleek, black, looking like audio equipment, having a headphone jack on it and a volume so you could get stereo to 12-year-old me. Honestly, that was mind-blowing. And it wasn't going to be released because it was coming out in Japan in December '88, and wasn't going to be released in the UK till 1990. And even back then I knew, because magazines were explaining this, in a bot shite PAL version. Honestly, if you had a UK Mega Drive, at least you got a Mega Drive, but sorry, suck to be you if you ever played a 60Hz Mega Drive, like a Genesis or a Japanese one. Came out in North America in 1989, so I kind of, based on the fact of, but we'll get to that when I talk about it, worked out the date I think I got it. So I still got it pretty much a year before it came out in the UK. Don't know when it came out in North America in 1989, so off the top of my head, I could Google it, but a bit late now, we're making the video. I got it like in spring, Easter basically. I got it in Easter. That's the only way I can work it out, because it was a bank holiday weekend, and it was the first bank holiday weekend of the year, and that would be Easter, wouldn't it? But yeah, so I remember seeing it in the magazine, and they're going on about it, and it's going to be absolutely fantastic. And I'm like, I'm not waiting for this to come out. I can't. Sega are my life. I love you, Sega. And I thought, and this is a big deal for a 12-year-old kid, even though I earned like about 25 quid a weekend, because I had 3 part-time jobs, man. I sacrificed my weekend a chunk to make money like that, because I had expensive tastes in comics and stuff like that, you know, and Spectrum games and shit, and peripherals and movies. VHS, those were the days. Yeah, so I made the decision, a bold decision, especially for a 12-year-old, you know, whose parents wouldn't buy you, you know. I don't even know if I would have got half of it for Christmas, because obviously, spoilers, it was £189, which actually was the same for the magazines, the black and whites, which was the same price it was when it came out in the stores, to be fair, even though that was an inferior model, so they should have knocked some money off for the fact that it was PAL and shite. Sorry, PAL kids. But at least you got one. So, I just thought, I'm buying one. I'm going to save up and I'm going to buy one. And so, games started to trickle out for it. Obviously, there weren't a massive amount when it was released in Japan. It took, you know, few here, few there to trickle in. So by Easter, there were games. Pretty sure it was Easter. If the game that I got with it that I tell you about wasn't out then it must have been another bank holiday weekend. But these are nostalgic memories. You know how these things work. You don't date stamp them. You just remember how much fun you had back in the day with your nostalgia goggles on. So I remember going through the black and white at the back of CVG, and basically, there were 2. They were selling the PC Engine as well, but the PC Engine, even though I drooled over it in magazines, like, you know, it was the stuff of law, we all did, I was simply buying the Mega Drive because it was Sega, and I had to and I had a Master System, which I did sell to get some money towards my Mega Drive as well, which speeded up the process. But it was Sega, and I had to have the Sega console because of my love for the arcades and the fact that they promised decent ports of these arcade perfect ports of these arcade machines at home. So, and all the magazines were divided, or the adverts were divided into PAL, and they would modify it itself, or SCART, and the SCART meant you had to have an RGB socket on the back of your TV, which we did not. My Master System just ran on RF. All the magazines advised that you get SCART, get a SCART TV and get SCART, because the picture will be so much better. I don't know if they said it would be 60Hz or 50Hz back then. I don't know if they mentioned that. And I don't know if anyone got burned with the really bad PAL versions of, you know, Mega Drive, Japanese Mega Drive imports from the back of magazines. I generally don't know. But all I know is I found this one article, pre-internet, didn't know anyone else who was saving up for a Mega Drive, didn't know hardly any people who, like, you know, even cared about it, were just still into their computers and their micros and shit like that. So I had no way to check if this was like, you know, respectable. Obviously it did bite me in the ass a bit, but we'll get to that. You know, importer. But it was basically, I think it was £179 for a PAL modded machine, or £189 for the SCART. They called it SCART, but it was obviously RGB. So I ordered that. And the pack that I wanted was, because it was a massive, massive game. So this probably dates to when it was released then, I guess. So I'm not sure. Maybe this is why I didn't get it and they were liars. It was supposed to be Batman. And because that was, you know, all the magazines were mental over that. Batman, fantastic. Didn't come out in 1990, was what it says on the box. That's rubbish. Or maybe that's North America. And I was supposed to get an arcade stick. Yeah, but we'll talk about the quality of that when we get to like opening, you know, my package. Awkward. And yeah, so Batman, no other games, couldn't afford, you know, any other games. It was a chunk, £189 in one go for a kid, even if you had, you know, part-time jobs as me. That was a wedge, you know, that was a serious wedge. But also, I had to buy a TV. So we went down the road to Nelsey, because I obviously saved up more money for this. That's why it was a proper wedge, and bought a 14-inch Sharp TV from the, I don't know what it is, it's in the high street in Nelsey. I took a picture of it and put it on Facebook years ago because I was amazed that it's still in the family and has the same name on the above the marquee of the store, on the front of the store. The sign, that's the word I'm looking for. It's still in the family, owned by the same people. The people when I bought my 14-inch SCART TV back in the day there, and that TV was bulletproof. I gave that TV to someone before I moved to Canada. So I don't even know if it's still going, but yeah, that thing was bulletproof. So I had to get that. So this is why it was expensive. And then I had to wait. And if you remember who remembers the excruciating waiting, you know, excruciating pain of waiting 28 days for delivery, or please allow 28 days of delivery. This took 3 weeks. I can remember that. It wasn't a full month. It took 3 weeks. It was absolutely unbearable. Just excruciating, coming home from school and just, you know, checking the mail. Literally my mum would just at some point just stand inside the front, you know, porch, wait for me to come home and just go, no, a preemptive no, it's not here. And obviously they said as well, please allow 28 days for delivery, and that was excruciating, because there's one thing to drool over something while you're saving up for it, but then you've achieved, you know, your goal, waiting for it, and not just waiting for games, which was excruciating, as I've mentioned in previous videos, waiting for your system that's not even out in this country, that none of your mates are going to have, that is like the system of your fucking dreams because you're a huge Sega fanboy. Excruciating. So this is what I don't know about how exactly specifically when I got it was. There was a bank holiday weekend, so my parents were going to go down the chalet, ironically, where the arcades were, where I could play all these amazing Sega games, you know, such as, they had everything in this. I've done a vlog on it, you know, Afterburner, Outrun, Space Harrier, Shinobi, the Enduro Racer. Didn't have Power Drift though. I was bummed a little bit by that. Yeah, everything. But because it was a bank holiday weekend, and and it'd been around about 3 weeks, I just wasn't going to go. Such was my wanting to get this system that I like, and I'm 12, so, you know, pretty sure legally, and the fact that we weren't all pussies back then, including my parents, I was allowed to stay home. So I said, I'm staying home for the weekend. So even though I say this thing was a little bit underwhelming because of the game, it wasn't underwhelming at all, really, because I'm in the house by myself for an entire weekend with a state-of-the-art brand new console that no one else even fucking has in my school for probably 8 months, and I can have a mate come over. I mean, how is that not going to be the greatest weekend of your life? Anyway, so yeah, they went off. They went off, and my twin brother, my older brother, and they were fine with this because they knew how much I was waiting for this and wanting this to come. And so yeah, they went off on the Friday, and I was just home alone. Didn't even plan on having a mate coming over. I asked if I could have my mate Sam come over. Sam was the kid who owned a NES when I owned a Master System, and even though he loved my Master System, he fucking drooled over Arto. He was the guy who used to say, this is why I was going to invite him over, just to blow him out of the water, which is, oh, the NES is just such a more playable system than the Master System. And even as a kid, I'm like, no, it's not. It's hardware is not more playable than other hardware. It may be easier to do. This is me as a kid, but it may be easier to develop for, but it's software that's more playable than other software, Sam. Not a NES being more playable than a Master System. See, I mean, we were mates, best mates, but it's always about getting one back over each other, innit? And he never got one back over me on my Mega Drive, and then I got a Super Famicom, so yeah. done twice for twice. But yeah, and I do remember saying to him, and also, how can you say it's more playable when you own 6 games and I own 22 on my Master System? Anyway, so I remember sat there and they would have gone at about lunchtime and it was 1:30 and the doorbell rang. And literally just stuck my head out the front window like that, looking around, well, not out the front window, but you know, inside, over the side bit at the bottom, a windowsill, that's the word I'm looking for, like that. And there was the postman, standing with a package about this size. This is a lot smaller than I remember. This is obviously not the one from my childhood. This is the one I bought at the start of my channel. Trying to get it in picture there. 12. Yeah, I've had a YouTube channel for 12 years. Doesn't time fly? Yeah, so I ran out, signed for it, and all that guff. Obviously, it was in a box slightly bigger than this because it had a game in there, and then it had an extra box with the joystick there, and I was just like, you know, all the stars have aligned. I made the correct decision to stay home. It's arrived. I've got my Mega Drive and friggin' Batman, spoiler alert, for 3 days. And so immediately, the first thing I did when I came in the house was not open it. Phoned my mate Sam and said, Sam, my parents gone to Westford Ho for the entire weekend. You'll never guess what's fucking arrived. And he went, your Japanese Megadrive? I went, yes. Can you come over? You can stay over all weekend. We'll eat shit and we'll just play Batman. And he's like, yeah. And so, yeah, his parents dropped him over. I went and got a sun lounger and some spare like bedding and shit. Stuck it in the in the lounge, and I set my TV up downstairs in the back hall. I don't know why, it just seemed more appropriate to put it in the back hall. And then while he was coming over, I was like, and opened it. And this is what I saw. This is the really, really, really cool side. Don't tell me that this is not just because of Member Berry goggles, nostalgia and shit like that, one of the best looking boxes you ever. This beat the PC Engine, this beat the Super Famicom was underwhelming. This beat the TurboGrafx. This just, and the NES, just a clinical design, like the, you know, blueprints, if you can see it, of the Mega Drive in the background, and the Japanese logo was way, way better. And Mega Drive is a better name than Genesis. Sorry, don't care what you think. It's my video. I know there was a legal reason for them not being able to call it Genesis, but yeah. And there's the English side, because you know what? Why not put it in English? And obviously, I still have this machine, and I treasure it and I love it. The new one, not my original one. And then before I opened that, I opened the joystick, and it was a clicky stick. Didn't know anything about fucking micro switches back then. I was a kid, and it had 3 buttons and turbos. But as a kid, I do remember thinking they were really soft and dull, and had 4 sucker cups. Because I was convinced I needed it because it would be like an arcade stick, and it was chucked in for the price, which I didn't think. Because all the prices were around no more than £200 for imports, and all started at like 179, 189, 199, 200. That was it. Unless you wanted to do packs with extra games and stuff like that. And so when I opened the packaging though, and like I said, saw the box, opened it up, stuck my hand in, could have bought this down as a prop, didn't, forgot. And where's my Batman? Where's my Batman? I was under the impression that I paid for Batman. You said that this was the Batman pack. This is clearly Rastan Saga 2, which I knew of because I'd seen reviews of it in Mean Machines, and it got around about 80%, I think. It was on the Mega Drive and the PC Engine. Maybe I'll do a comparison video of that. And I was like, genuinely, I don't know if I was pissed off. That's something that more as I've got older and think about what they probably actually did to me, which is just shaft me and lie, got pissed off. Then I was disappointed. But the thing is, by the end of the day, and 2.5 solid days of playing Rastan Saga 2, I loved it. But we'll get a little bit more into that. Generally, disappointed, upset, a little bit underwhelmed. But there was a letter in the box, there was a note in the box that said, sorry, due to high demand, we have no copies of Batman to send you, so we've included Rastan Saga 2. No reason why they picked that game, like this is equally high in the charts or something, like lie to double the pain a little bit, and we will send you a copy of Batman when we get it. Spoilers, they never did, and I wrote back to them twice, and they never did. And as a kid, I don't think I told my parents, because in case it was something like, we'll get involved in this and you'll have to send it back. And I couldn't take that chance because you didn't know that. But as a kid, I'm like, what do I do? What do I do? I don't get Batman. The thing is, it would only take me a couple of weeks before I got another game, which I think was pretty much E-Swap. And then I got Forgotten Worlds, or it might have been vice versa. But they were pretty much the first 2 games I'm pretty sure I got for it. So like earning 25 quid a week, I could, you know, didn't take me too long. And the thing is, brand new system. No one else, just knowing that no one else has got it when you're playing it. That's cool. That gives you some hype, you know. That gives you some, you know, excitement, adrenaline, shit like that. And it looked amazing. And I played it with the headphones on, you know, before Sam got here because it took a couple of hours. Yeah, played it with some headphones on and stuff like that. Oh my god! Up and down volume switch. It's got headphones. Stereo sound. Funnily enough, I never use them again. Just put up with it coming out as mono out of the TV. But kudos for doing it. Absolutely kudos for doing it. But yeah, devastated that I never got Batman. It did end up eventually buying Batman, and it came in a really cool mini reversed case, which is utterly fantastic. But yeah, genuinely, I mean, when I say underwhelmed, I wasn't, because you got to remember, as shit as you think Rastan Saga 2 is now, and it's fine for an early game, it really is fine for an early game. I think it was an arcade machine. The problem with Rastan Saga 2 is an arcade machine is it's just nowhere near as good as the original. They should have just done more of the same like they did with the third Rastan Saga game, but they didn't. Although I do like the Wolverine claws. Yeah, so the thing is though, right, there was nothing graphically on the Amiga at the time, at least that I can remember, that, you know, touched it. The sprites were huge, and it did resemble the arcade machine. But yeah, like the sprites were huge. So even though, and I wouldn't say it was a duffer, I do as an adult, I was just disappointed because I wanted Batman, obviously 1989. It was huge, huge, huge Batman fan. So obviously this must be mid or late of the year then. I can't remember. Like, it's all blurred into one and shit like that. It was released well late in 1990 though when it came out in the UK. This is why I have no definitive timestamp on it. So it can't have been Easter. Anyway, that's not the point. It's me reminiscing about my childhood. Time is not an important thing. I'm aware I'm wearing a Doctor Who t-shirt. But yeah, so obviously huge Batman fan, but that was massively, massively, massively disappointing. But the thing is, new game, graphically, wipes the floor with anything I've ever seen in the magazines on, you know, the computers and stuff like that. And I've come off a Spectrum, then a Mass System. And so me and Sam, and it wasn't super easy game. We played that solidly, absolutely solidly. We stopped to eat junk food. We just ate pizza, frozen pizza, for the entire fucking weekend. What's not to love about that? Yeah, and watch the 15 minutes preview of RTL Tutti Frutti on satellite. Who remembers that? You know you do, and you know you did that. Best game show ever. Yeah, so I caned the shit with Sam, and we took it in turns. And yeah, and the thing is, I played the joystick and went, this is a bit, I don't like this. But it wasn't that it was a shit joystick, although the buttons wore out really quickly, funnily enough. They were worn out in 6 months. I just couldn't get over how incredibly comfortable and amazing, what a step up it was from the Master System in the NES, and any control pad or joystick I'd ever used. It's got 3 buttons on it and a start button. Yeah, it was such a comfortable control pad, just use that. And we played that solidly for 2.5 days, and by the end of 2.5 days we could just rinse it and complete it and start doing, I guess we could call them speed runs, and how, you know, how good and how little damage you could take. And for some reason, I still remember this, we were absolutely blown away by the music at the end, because it sounded, at least to us, and coming off a Master System, you know, and a ZX Spectrum, and hearing NES stuff, which to be fair did have pretty banging music. So did the Master System in the right hands, but not as good as this. It's like, oh my god, it sounds like an acoustic guitar as the text rolled up like that. Spoilers, can't even play, spoilers, sorry, can't even beat Rastan Saga 2 now. Excuse me, Windy Pops, and I haven't even had breakfast. But, so I say a little bit underwhelming that I never got Batman, but it was still a fucking amazing weekend. You know, 3 days by yourself in the house, frozen pizza, best mate from school at the time, who had a NES, and so, you know, like I said, constantly trying to one-up each other and like that. Console came, no one else had it at school, wasn't coming out for, you know, at least a year at this point. Someone at school didn't get it for another 8 months, which I used to borrow games off, you know, before it was out again. As I mentioned in previous videos, I could buy games for it in the high street. That was a pretty fucking good weekend of my childhood. So I guess when I say it wasn't underwhelming, I was pissed off. I was pissed off because they should have sent me Batman. And the excuse, which is due to demand. No, this was your Batman pack, alright? So if you've only got enough Batman to include with this you know, pack that you are selling, obviously it's not an official pack, it's one they put together themselves, then you don't sell it individually. Sorry, you don't do that, because you obviously can't fucking count, and you obviously can't do inventory, so that's bullshit. So you fuck me over, Ickle Dave. Did you tell him I'm so pissed off? You fucked Ickle Dave over big time there, who worked his ass off and saved up for this in its entirety itself, and you came up with the excuse that sorry you ran out. Or, as I started to think as an adult, you just had no intention of sending it to me anyway, and you used this. I wonder how many other people, again, no internet, because you could have easily asked this now on social media, got fucked over on that as well, and got Rastan Saga 2 or something else. You probably just thought, we can get rid of a bunch of these games that are not selling at all, and just keep Batman and keep selling it on its own for, you know, a premium price. That's what I think as an adult. As a kid, just annoyed, disappointed, pissed off, but not really pissed off, because they promised me they were going to give it to me, and 2 letters later from me, still hadn't got it, and they never even responded to those 2 letters. Like, do you know what I mean? So it was an amazing weekend, but you could also argue it was a life lesson when you're a kid, which is, you know what, adults, they'll let you down, they'll fuck you over. That's what adults do. This is a life lesson, Dave. Thanks, life. Thanks. So, yeah, that was my weekend of getting my Japanese imported Megadrive. It was an unbelievable wait for it to come, although it didn't take 28 days, but it was just painful. But then, me, my best mate, one game or not, on like a truly exclusive system. And you got to remember, me having that as a fucking massive Sega fan, I was insane, and the rest is history with all the games I got, stuff like Golden Axe and things like that, and you know, and getting these games that would, like, Golden Axe is a fantastic, it's not arcade perfect, but it's a damn close port of the arcade, and that's, you know, I mean, I've talked about all these games when I do gameplays and stuff, those memories are utterly fantastic as well. That means it's breakfast time soon. But yeah, it was a fantastic weekend. Not getting Batman didn't ruin it, taught me a life lesson, but yeah, just what good weekend that was, and what luck, you know, that whatever holiday weekend that was, or maybe it wasn't a bank holiday weekend and they pulled us out of school on a Friday, don't know, you know, because it could have been, I mean, I chose to stay home because at this point 3 weeks it's worth the gamble to get, you know, wait at home and get the Mega Drive, but you got to remember, I would have been, you know, bored, disappointed or upset going to Westwood Ho because of that absolutely amazing arcade. So yeah, that is the story of the day, the weekend I got my import Mega Drive, and you know, the whole didn't get Batman. Anyway, as always, I love to know, I think, especially if you imported a Mega Drive and have a similar story to me, which they shafted you on the pack in-game, which was the specific reason you ordered from them, and you ordered that pack, which was more expensive than other packs. Or you could just buy one without. As always, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you later.